folks, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Natasha and I do book things here. A little bit of a different setup. The first episode, if you will. Something that I kind of want to do every so often here, which is bookish deep dives. What does that mean? If you're new here, I have ADHD and I have a tendency when I'm on my own, I don't know if other people do this, I imagine other people do, but I have a tendency to start looking up something and the next thing you know, I'm 6 hours later down like a Reddit thread that was posted in like 2010 with like random obscure knowledge, and that's basically how I live my life. If ever there's something I'm curious about, I'm that person that's googling it. It's like, oh, did you know this? Like trivia and knowledge. And so I thought, well, what if I do this not necessarily purposefully, but not trying to get into something interesting, but like when I do, which I do quite often, I kind of share with you guys the information I find along the way that gets me to this thing that I've now find really interesting. So almost like a Google deep dive to see where it goes, but this is going to be more book focused. It's not going to be super structured. Hopefully at the end you'll have like a random trivia knowledge or a piece of knowledge. I actually did this several days ago. Why I'm here, because this is my computer. Do you like my glowing red screen for ambiance? Find lighting like this, by the way, just on YouTube. If you enter in like a screen of pure red for 10 hours and you can take selfies and stuff like this, and it makes some really cool effects. So there's a trick for you. Kind of wanting to do bookish deep dives on subjects that I find really interesting. Different things such as, you know, how are book spines made? Books sort of covered in human skin. Sort of like what is the longest book and that kind of things. It actually started off, I was looking up sort of like how many words are in a novel, or how many like what's the average book length? Something that I feel like has been talked about fairly frequently on BookTube, which is how many words are in a book, because I feel like there's book talk, I feel like there's booktube, but there's also like authortube and writertube, and I kind of like don't really dip my toes into the writing. I'm not a writer, but I have a lot of friends who are. I have a lot of friends who do NaNoWriMo or who are literally writing and publishing books, and so they talk a lot about word count, and I never really put too much thought into it. Here's kind of what I learned about word count, and this is sort of what started the bookish deep dive into the final thing that I'll talk about, which is this story called The Blah Story. And I hope you can kind of follow my train. According to Amazon, the medium length for all books is about 64,000 words. Now, I always thought it was a little bit higher than that. Apparently, it changes depending on genre. So it says a lot of different books require different book lengths, which I never really thought about. Like, it's really kind of, again, I'm not a writer, so it's not something I typically think about, but this is something that I found interesting at least. Memoirs are typically 45,000 to 80,000 words. Self-help are 30,000 to 70,000. Fantasy can typically go up from 50,000 to 150,000 words. So if you're looking to find, I guess, sort of the page count books on average, so like if, say, a fantasy is 150,000 words, if you divide that by 300, it's about 500 page book. Romance is a little shorter, so 50,000 to 90,000, mystery 40,000 to 80,000, horror 40,000 to 80,000, which they claim makes sense because a lot of the time you want to like tell a story really quickly with mystery and horror. So then that kind of took me into another article, which was popular books and their word count. Things like classics like Animal Farm is only 30,000 words. Lord of the Flies is 62,000 words. It's a little bit longer. East of Eden is 225,000 words. As I scroll down, I looked at War and Peace, 544,000 words. So if you're putting that into, again, a calculator, which I'm going to, about 1,800 pages. I was like, War and Peace, because it says on here, like Middlemarch has, 300,000 words, and it says 2% of books have more words. And then War and Peace, 545,000 words. And it says 0% of books have more words. And I was like, nah, like there's gotta be books that are longer than that, right? It says, here we see some of the longest novels in the world. And more on that, check out the Wikipedia entry for list of longest novels. So I was like, well, all right, I'll go click on that. And it opens up a bunch of stuff that I honestly have never heard of. A lot of languages that I'm not familiar with, like Croatian, French, Dutch, Romanian, things like that. It talks about some of them having like over 2 million words. I don't know, 11,000 pages. So I started scrolling through the Wikipedia and whatever. Finally, I looked up world's longest novel. That's eventually where it got me. I found a really interesting bunch of novels that claim that they're the longest in the world. Reading a couple articles, one of which caught my eye because it says, "So bad it's horrible literature." And I'm like, okay. I pulled across this really interesting man in this really interesting novel, Marian My Love by Mark Leach. And I found this website and you can read through everything. Welcome to Marian My Love. I assembled this multi-volume work through calculation and chance. It consists of fragments of pre-existing text, both written and appropriated by me over the course of 30 plus years. I like to think of it as, quote, the movie of all my labors and all my inspirations. February 1st, 2013, Marian Bad My Love consists of 17 volumes, totaling 17.8 million words and 10,710 pages. While I have not added to the book in recent years, I still consider it to be a work in progress. But what is the novel about? Now, here's where the deep dive gets into the stuff that I get interested in, which is like, is this the work of a madman? It says, here's the book jacket of what this novel is about. Exiled on a deserted island, a Christ-haunted journalist turned filmmaker attempts to persuade a married woman from his past to help him produce a science fiction-themed pastiche, I don't even know that word, to the 1960s French New Wave classic, Last Year at Marienbad. Though this is the act of artistic creation, he expects to carry out the will of God by prophesizing the death of time and the birth of a new religion, if only he can make the woman remember him. Now, I was like, okay, that's a little weird, but then it gets a little stranger. It weighs 65 pounds and 11.4 ounces. This is serious literature, he claims. Sometimes you can find print versions of it on Amazon or eBay. If you want a copy, buy it when you can. It says, one vendor told me they would no longer offer the book because they have decided it provided, quote, a poor customer experience. And I saw that, I was like, okay, what is this? Like, I have to read, at the very least, like a little bit of this. I kind of opened this up and I downloaded the first file. Now, it says on the website, Marian Bad My Love, asterisk. Now, the asterisk is the condensed title. The full complete title is 60 pages long. I'm just going to read a little bit of it. It says, Marian Bad My Love in the ruins of the dreams and belief of a Christ-haunted journalist turned filmmaker exiled on a desert island attempting to persuade a married woman from his past to help him produce a science fiction theme, that initial thing. An act of artistic creation to bring about the death of time and the birth of a new religion, if only he can make her remember him inside his celluloid voyage of dark violence, of vines strangling the pulpit, and moth consuming the flag, and an important discovery of why so many people who appear to be alive are really dead inside the filmmaker's unrequited love interest as he searches for a way out of his prison and off the forsaken island he calls Marienbad, in the ruins of his memories and dreams, a place lost in space and time, a place of mute beaches where footsteps are lost upon sand so profound, so deep, that one perceives no step while looking up at the eastern heavens, at the incredible sight of a white clock dial bleeding through the thin cobalt sky, a psychic contrail suspended in the high, thin stratosphere, an icy circus cloud of time, a manifestation known to the government, but kept secret from the populace, a decloaked clock in the air that may have been an alien spaceship or a sign from the deity, his divine pocket watch, wandering through an obscene territory of winged demons, aerial creatures bearing branded vials of amputated ghost parts, decaying metallic reek of bankrupt snake skins, corroded like, it goes on like that for 60 pages. That's the title. I was like, this has to be a joke, right? Like, this is not an actual book. Like, I read more about this guy. It says, Mark Leach is an artist who mainly works with contemporary strategies. Keyword there, artist, not author, not writer. artist who works with contemporary strategies. By experimenting with aleatoric processes, Leach formalizes the coincidental and emphasizes the conscious process of composition that is behind the seemingly random works. So it says that Leach creates situations with everyday objects. Like, basically what I gathered from this is that he's an artist first, not a writer. And this work is essentially just stream of consciousness. A lot of stuff is copied over and over. And so it really asked the question to me then, is it a novel? Is it a novel? Is it a piece of art? Is it a novel? And I'm going to let you sit with that for a second, because eventually I'm getting to the blah story. I feel like this is more of a novel than the one I'm about to tell you about. Mary and Bad My Love is 17 million words, arguably the longest novel. But then the one underneath it, which is the one that really got me interested, is a book by Nigel Tome, which is called The Blah Story. So then I had to go look that up. The Blah Story by Nigel Tome is the second longest novel, containing both the longest sentence and the longest coined word in English. This might have been so bad it's good, except the book is written something like, it's called The Blah Story. Why is it called The Blah Story? Well, because it literally looks like this, and it says, in a blah, she was blah, 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 down a blah between blah roses, blah, 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 her blah, blah hair, her blah, blah gently, the blah, blah trees. That is for 11 million words. That's like 4,000 pages. So then I just started to look into the Blah Story, and I ended up finding a review on like LiveJournal from God knows how long ago. It's the second longest novel ever written in any language ever. Also the second most pointless novel written in any language. The Blah Story is written by a pseudo-intellectual asshat named Nigel Tome and weighs in at over 11 million words. This isn't so oppressive, however, when you note the following things about it. 1. 90% of the words in the novel are blah. One of its many volumes, 22 at last count and still going, is a little more than a 500,000 word sentence generated by a computer. It also contains the longest word in any book ever, which is a several million character word, which is also generated by a computer. And then number 4, it says, in fact, it's basically just blah repeated billions of times with random words stuffed in between. Are you getting the idea here? The summary is blah blah, this blah blah novel is a blah 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 fucking blah blah, use this way to fucking time and paper blah blah blah. Read this random review. Like I was Googling like the Blah Story review, couldn't find very much, but then I found this and I was like, this is hilarious. 11 million words, most of which are blah, and honestly I don't think I can possibly say more than that. The thing is, when you first see it, you can't help but cackle out loud. The sheer absurdity of a book in which most of it is blah and people are paying for it makes you wonder if it's all some sort of sick joke. When you read the blurb on the back, which is the same on all volumes, it consists of the following text. This is where it gets into that art versus a novel versus pretentious, which I went to art school. So this is why stuff like this interests me, because I know people who take their work like this and it's the most pretentious shit you've ever read. Quote, overwhelmingly creative, Nigel Tome demolishes the barrier of words and meaning, giving vitality and expressive strength to the pattern of his most exclusive novel, The Blah Story. It is a new way of conceiving text that frees the imagination, allowing you to personalize each word by your own creativity. You know, being blah is everything. I'm going to stop there because that, to me, feels, again, like this is not a novel, this is art. Right? He genuinely thinks that this is making some sort of point. It's possible, in fact, that it's some sort of artwork. No, he can just keep self-publishing this stuff and hoping that someone will buy it, either because they think it's somehow intellectual, some sort of wry comment on the use of language in meta-literature, or to just see if it's real. Alas for them, alas for the environment, but huzzah for Mr. Tom's wallet. It is real. I honestly can't think of why anyone would buy it. I should mention also that a YouTube reviewer did generate a similar tome entitled 50,000 Shades of Grey, which consists of the phrase shades of grey repeated 50,000 times. The only reason that it existed was for a visual pun. However, the Blah Story is serious. I went to Nigel's website and it's basically filled with a lot of like quote avant-garde art pieces, which is basically him just like smashing on a piano, and a lot of like just what I call pretentious old man art, which I know art is subjective, obviously, which is why, you know, I kind of made this video as a deep dive because I just thought that this was so interesting that somebody could, I won't even say get away with this, but like have, I guess, the knowledge or the creativity to just do this. So this is kind of where it ended for the blah story, for me at least, where I sort of was left thinking like, is this art? Like, is it just messing with readers? Like, what, you know, what is the point of this? And then I did do just, you know, one last sort of next level dive, I guess. And I stumbled across this video by a man named John Fish on YouTube. He's a younger guy. And the video title is I Made the Longest Book in the World. And he talks in the video, I'll link that down below because I thought it was a really, really good video. Basically made like an entire computer program, like coding everything, to sort of grammatically put together sentences. And he talks in his video about the blah story and how it's just, you know, making the word blah many times over. That he argues in his video that his book is better because it actually makes, on occasion, readable sentences. So he ended up doing it. He made this program, let it run, and he made 12 million words out of it. It's 15 volumes. And you can kind of check out you can check out the video and just sort of, you know, what he thinks about like, is it art, is it a book? If you're interested at all into sort of the study of language, syntax, what's that other word, linguistic syntax, that kind of thing, and sort of the structure of sentences and the structure of words and what makes a sentence or a paragraph or a book, then this is, again, sort of a deep dive that you might want to get interested into. Also, if you are interested in at what point is something art, at what point is it inspired by the source material, which is a book. It goes to show that, like, even in 12 million words in a computer program, how many of those sentences make sense? Is it a book because it is just, like, it sort of begs the question of, like, what makes a book? What is consumable as humans to where we allow our brains to go, oh yes, that's a story? It's all very interesting questions. So that's kind of it. That's kind of where I left off on my deep dive. And it just kind of left my brain buzzing, which I'm sure if you're watching this, you can kind of see, but this is the kind of stuff I do. I spend hours doing this stuff. And at the end, I find things that I never knew about. I never knew about, you know, the list of the world's longest novels, about myreadingisodd, my love. I never knew about the blah story. I never knew that you could even sort of program a computer. I mean, it's something I knew was possible, but I never put a lot of thought into, that you could program a computer to make sentences, to write books for you. And then again, it all sort of sits in whether it's like, is it art? Is it a novel? Let me know if there's even like one bookish topic that you'd like for me to just sort of plunk in and see where my brain goes and see what I discover. Little things like this, because I love doing this. This is what makes me so happy. I'm like, oh, like it's the kind of thing that you sort of mention at a party. Like, did you realize that there's this story by this guy called the Blah Story that's like 11 million words and 90% of it is blah? That's such a fun thing to sort of like get a conversation going. This is the kind of stuff I love to do. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you check out any of the links down below. I'm going to keep a couple of them. Hopefully I remember to put them in there. If I don't, please yell at me in the comments. But yeah, let me know also in the comments if there's any other sort of like start of a book topic that you want me to get into. I want to try to avoid drama as much as possible, if that's a thing, but I'll start looking into something and see what I find. One of these videos might pop up every so often. But yeah, let me know if you like it, because this is the kind of stuff I love to do. That was my deep dive. Did you learn something? Great. Well, anyway, until next time, I'll talk to all you soon. Bye.